Okay, welcome everybody. Wonderful to see so many people here. Great crowd for my friend Mignon Fogarty. Let me first tell you a little bit about her. You probably know her. She's got a bit of a reputation out there. She seems to be, every time you turn around, she's doing something new and exciting and interesting. She started doing podcasts on word usage in an effort to help, and you're going to correct me if I'm wrong, but to help out the people she was editing science related materials for. So that's how it got started originally. It's grown into the Grammar Girl empire. The podcast, of course, uh, the website, multiple books, speaking engagement, active presence on Twitter and Facebook. She was one of the must listen to broadcasts or podcasts in the early days of podcasting. I guess 90s, maybe. Um, she won the Best Education Podcast 5 years, 5 times, as part of the Podcast Awards. She's the author of 7 books. She's appeared as a guest expert on the Oprah Winfrey Show, the Today Show, and now that Word Chat. So welcome, Mignon.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Yes, we're happy to have you. I always have a little bit of technical difficulty and I can't find my screen. There we go. Okay, good. I'm all set. So you're not at home.
Right.
Yeah. This is
I feel like I need to explain why I look like I'm in a hostage video. So, almost exactly when the lockdown started for the pandemic, I live in a high-rise condo in the heart of downtown Reno, Nevada, and 2 of our 3 elevators stopped working in the building.
Oh no!
Like and it was just unworkable. So pretty much anyone who could leave left the building, and so I've been living out of a suitcase for almost 3 months. I'm hoping to go back soon because they have 1 more elevator back online. But I'm in a vacation rental right now, and I have to just show you the creepy clown picture on the wall in the basement behind me. So yeah, I'm in a really weird place.
There's something on the
normally if I were at home I'd have books behind me.
Yeah. Usually we ask people about their books. Often there's a bookshelf because we all have that affinity. I see like a book, some sort of an artsy thing that looks like books over your right shoulder. Is that books that I'm seeing, or?
Oh no, that's a couch, I think.
No, above it on the wall.
There's a little bit of art on the wall, but
okay.
On the wall, yeah. It says the beach is my happy place, which actually it is. That's nice.
Oh, okay.
And
right,
cherish
nice.
life's simple pleasures, which is also true. So I have
okay.
random inspirational things on the wall.
Keeps you going. So yeah. So you've produced, like I said, I listed half of the things you've done, and the main things you've done so much. We were talking about before we started your game. And I think you're in so many media. So and now you're on LinkedIn. But what I really want to know is what's next.
What's next?
Yeah. What are you working on that is going to? Oh, sorry. Yes. What's next? What are you working on that's going to impress us all? Now that you've done everything, what's the next thing you're going to do?
What's left, I know, is hard. I've been producing, in July, it'll be 14 years that I've been producing the Grammar Girl podcast almost weekly. A couple years I did it twice a week, but mostly it's weekly. Oh. And yeah, you wonder like what more is there to really do? But I guess what I've recently been excited about is doing video with, particularly with LinkedIn Learning. So, as you said, I've done the podcast. Every segment we do is on the website as an article. I do a newsletter. I've done books, and I'm just pretty much everything except video. It's just not been my thing. It's a lot harder than everything else, I think. And so I was really excited when LinkedIn approached me about doing videos with them. And I thought, well, finally working with someone who knows what they're doing when it comes to video. And I did my first course last year, which is just the same title is the podcast and the book is Grammar Girls Quick and Dirty Tips for Better Writing. And they asked me to put together, my very best tips. And then we made sort of 2-minute videos of each of those 17 tips.
Oh, nice.
And it was just an amazing experience. They are incredibly professional. Like, you go down to Southern California and they have buildings with like studios, like it's a TV studio or a movie studio or something, and they have people who have worked in the industry. Like, there was a lighting guy who worked on movies, and they just really know what they're doing. And I worked with a producer ahead of time, an editor, to like have scripts that worked really well, because video, it is different from audio or text, and it needs to be really tight and short, and so they helped me sort of craft what I've done 1,000 times in other ways for educational videos. And then we went down, and I spent 3 days filming this 30-minute course. And I remember afterward thinking, well, this is why my YouTube videos suck. I mean, this is hard. It took so long. We probably did 15 takes for every video, and then we would edit them.
Yeah. So what were the retakes? What was the reason for doing different?
Actually, the most surprising thing is every take. There was an actual director, and almost every take he would be like, "Smile more, smile more, remember to smile." And I'm like, this is the only time it's appropriate for a man to tell a woman to smile.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Basically, his whole job was like, more smile, more energy.
Yeah,
So.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting, and I'm curious because we just we put these videos. We started putting them up on YouTube. We've got 2 up and 1 more coming tomorrow. And I look at them and I cut out sort of the beginning and the end, and anything sort of really, noises or things like that in the middle. But really, I don't touch them much. And I think if I could take, if I had like 2 days just to go through and edit, I could cut this out. I could maybe cut that question out, or cut a little bit of the, the answer out or something. But we're just throwing them up there. So that's interesting. And
I mean, these are meant to. I mean, and this is an entirely different kind of video, but these are meant to be used in training sessions or in classrooms, or people want a lot of they want information efficiency in those.
Right.
So this is more like for entertainment and companionship and community. So it's a different kind of video.
Yeah. Sure, of course.
So we should all smile more, because apparently, you're supposed to be over the top on video.
Yes, and energetic, more energy. Mignon, more energy. You always seem energetic. You always seem energetic.
Well,
so
with the LinkedIn Learning videos, I'm reading from a teleprompter, so that is part of what you're focusing on the words, and then you forget to smile. Apparently.
Right. Oh, that makes sense. So you've been sort of you've had the pandemic, and has that interrupted the LinkedIn thing, or is that just differently scheduled?
Well, it's really interesting, because it did. They can't go to their studios anymore, and everything was on hold. And they contacted me about 2 weeks ago, maybe now, and because I had been doing YouTube videos at home and do have more experience than some of their other people, they asked me if I wanted to film the next 2 courses that we had planned to do from home. So I'm going to be back in Reno, and they're apparently going to ship me like all sorts of fancy equipment, and then talk me through setting it up, and they're going to make me want to buy a whole bunch of things.
Yeah, well, just hold on to it as long as you can. There'll probably be lights, and you'll probably blow out the electricity.
Somehow they actually said they're going to have the same. It's going to be like a Zoom thing, and I actually asked, I go, is the director going to still be there telling me to smile? And they go, oh yeah, Cody will be there. So apparently they're going to be directing me via Zoom, and it's going to be really interesting.
That's pretty cool. And that's now, and we can we have to pay for that, right? That's not like available free?
Well, sort of. It's part of LinkedIn Learning, which if you have LinkedIn Premium, some people get that through work, and so it's like a flat fee, and then you can watch as many as you want every month. And then there's also a free 30-day trial, and you can usually get it free through your county library. So LinkedIn Learning bought lynda.com, so they're now the same thing, and a lot of libraries have lynda.com. So I think, you know, about 70% of libraries have it free.
That's the insider information I need. Yeah. Right there. Okay, get it through the library, like the OED. Do you still pay for the OED, or have you done the library? Library. Oh, you told me this years ago, and I said I get it. Well, I get it through my wife, so that's cheating. I mean, I get it through the university library, but I think a lot of local libraries have OED available.
Yeah, when I was a professor, I used the university library, but my local county library doesn't have it. Yeah, unfortunately, because it's expensive.
Right. Yeah. So have you slowed down in terms of in the podcasting, or is that still coming at the same clip?
No, I'm still doing every week, and I was thinking about it this morning. I think I have been writing more than usual because keep being these last minute pandemic related topics. So, you know, just this, I love my guest writers. It's been so helpful to have, you know, Samantha Enslin, Neil Whitman, Diana Foe have been writing a lot for me lately. And I appreciate their help so much. But I've gotten this backlog of evergreen articles that they've written for me because, you know, this week I wrote about the phrase, the bad apple, where we get the phrase, the bad apple, and what that idiom really means. And then Thursday, I just finished a piece for Thursday about systemic versus systematic, because we found that people were searching our site for that. So there've been like last minute, you know, I've had like 2 days to write a segment about something pandemic related almost every week. So I've actually been doing more writing lately, which I guess has been good. I don't know. Everything feels hard right now. I'm sure it does for everyone.
Well, sure. I mean, there's the focus thing. I mean, for you, you're not at home, so you're not in your regular space, but then there's a lot going on in the world to stress about as well. So,
so much news to read.
Yeah. Have you do you do a lot of radio? I know you've done Ann Fisher here in Columbus and several times, and so I always listen when you're on my local radio station. Is that a regular thing, or is that just an occasional?
It's kind of occasional. I actually pushed off a radio interview that wanted to do this week. I pushed that off for a couple weeks because I get almost no cell connection here where I am. Yeah. And I think I'm doing one on Friday, but it's kind of off and on. So what happened is I was mentioned in a Wall Street Journal article about two spaces after a period, couple last week, I think it was. And then radio stations see it and then they contact me. So that's what happened is like that came out and then two radio stations wanted to talk to me, and one I was able to move back, and one I'm just going to try to muddle through.
Yeah. So you're the Mary Norris mentioned in the very first episode. She said, talking about going back to Cleveland and how that was canceled, where she's her hometown, and she pointed out that a prophet is never appreciated in her hometown. So I'm curious about you and your fame. I mean, in our community, you're you're a familiar face, and we're all thrilled every time you're available and we see you. What's it like in Reno? Do you get people as you walk down the street asking for autographs, or does that simply not happen?
No, not at all. No, I mean, what's kind of fun is because I was a professor for 3 years at the university, I'll run into former students sometimes, and that's really fun. And some of the students did know me from my Grammar Girl work. I remember one grad student, his mother was a fan and was so excited that I was going to be his professor. But In general, no. And I mean, I tend to keep kind of a low profile too. Like I don't like being recognized like just out of the blue. So I find it kind of freaky. So I would say I maybe go a little bit out of my way in my hometown to keep a lower profile. But then once I was a professor, I really couldn't. So but mostly people know me through that job more than Grammar Girl, actually.
That's interesting. Have you done events in Reno, book signings and that sort of thing?
A few, yeah. When my books came out, I did signings at Sundance, the local bookstore, and there was actually a pop culture con last year that was really fun, like a little mini Comic Con that I did. I did a book signing there that was really fun, and everyone was in cool costumes. And
oh, really?
Yeah.
Is anybody dressed as
but I don't do. No, although people have for Halloween. People have posted pictures on social media that they dressed up as Grammar Girl for Halloween, and that was super cool.
Yeah, I've seen that. That's cool. So one thing I like to do, you've seen this show, you've been on the show before. I always like to pull off, reach back and pull off people's books who are on the show from my show. But with your books, all right, so we got, of course, Grammar Girl's Quick and Dirty Tips for Better Writing. I never quite get the lighting right there. There it is. And was this your first book?
That was the first. That was the New York Times bestseller. So exciting. That's going in my obituary for sure.
Yeah. This is 2008.
I made sure my husband knew that.
What?
Right.
To put it in your obituary?
That's so long ago.
You made sure your husband, okay. Rather maudlin thought. And then we have, maybe people don't know about these. Oh, I've got 2 copies of 101 Misused Words You'll Never Confuse Again, 101 Words to Sound Smart, 101 Troublesome Words, always 101, coincidentally, and 101 Words Every High School Graduate Needs to Know. And then, of course, I've got a couple of these.
I was at 101 Troublesome Words is probably my favorite book, and it probably sells the least number of copies.
Really?
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Why would that be the case? Why would that sell the least?
Well, it's kind of interesting because 101 Misused Words was the first one in the series, and Troublesome Words was the last one.
Oh, I see.
And I don't know if people were burned out or if misused is more compelling than troublesome.
Or they thought they already owned it.
Probably sells the best out of that series. So I don't know, but it's funny to me.
I actually tweeted about Flyer today. The flyer difference. So that's in here, which really kind of I think has changed some in the over the time I've been noticing that. And then and I love this one, Grammar Girl Presents the Ultimate Writing Guide for Students.
What's astonishing about that one is probably, I don't know, maybe a month ago now. So that book is also pretty old, probably 10 years old. And about a month ago, it was Macmillan's #1 selling nonfiction book at Barnes and Noble.
Really?
Like better than every other nonfiction book that Macmillan sells. Like that never happens for a book ever. A book that old would never do that well. But I think that because of the pandemic, they said children's nonfiction is selling really well. So I think parents must have been looking for a book to help their kids with their writing or something. It was just it was like such a shock that it did that.
Yeah, no, that's terrific, and I'm not surprised. I mean, it's got it's simple and friendly, laid out, all the basics, and I think parents are probably looking for something to remind themselves of the terms and the rules and things. So. Is that it, or do we have? No, we've got the grammar devotional.
The grammar devotional.
Yeah, 2 of those.
Which has puzzles.
Yeah, that's nice. Okay, so so no more books though.
I got really burned out. I wrote 7 books in 6 years, and I just haven't felt like writing one since. It's probably been, it's probably been maybe 6 years since I've written a book now, and I think about it, but I don't have anything I'm dying to write. And writing a book is enough work that you should really, really want to. You can just do it because it's time. I haven't found that compelling idea yet.
Have you thought about writing something different, something not grammar?
I have been toying with the idea of fiction for a decade. I don't think I'm very good at it. I don't know. I mean, I haven't tried that hard. Honestly, like I probably write something every 4 months. I find the idea of writing fiction very enticing.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, I know what you mean. Okay.
I'm a huge fan of fiction writers. I joined a writers group, and I ended up just editing all their stuff. I never wrote anything myself to contribute. And I was really excited because I got to be friends with a bunch of fiction writers. So.
Well, that's worth it. If we can just be in that world, we don't need to necessarily contribute in a huge way. And of course, editing is a huge contribution. But you didn't start out as somebody who there was no calling for you to teach grammar. I mean, this is not your origins. Your origin story is.
In fact, lately I've been missing being a science writer. So before I was Grammar Girl, I was a science writer and editor. I have an undergraduate degree in English and a master's in biology. I'm actually a PhD dropout. I did lab research and everything on fruit fly stem cells. So with all the, really relevant biological news happening now, I've kind of been missing my days as a science writer. But yeah, I mean, I guess the way I got into Grammar Girl is that I just really love technology and I wanted to podcast. So I was working as a science writer and editor, and I had a science podcast before I was Grammar Girl. And then I was actually looking for something easier to do to stay in podcasting. I was doing interviews with scientists, and that was just really hard back then, technologically. And I noticed my editing clients were making the same mistakes in their writing over and over again. And I thought, well, I'll just do a little podcast with a quick and dirty tip every week about writing. Like, gosh, it would be great if I could just tell people how to use semicolons, And so, I mean, that's really how I got started. It was almost on a whim, and I had already been doing the science podcast, and then Grammar Girl, it just took off. It just immediately got a huge audience and became something that I could do as a job, and I've been doing it ever since. And I love it, but it wasn't like I set out to be a grammar expert, or it was just this hobby that took off. And then I worked really hard because I was just a regular editor. Like I was not any kind of extra trained expert. So I, just bought a bunch of style guides and read all the time. And I think that my work has gotten better over the years. Absolutely. And I go back and I rewrite a lot of the old stuff too. I update it and try to make it better.
Right. Yeah. I suppose there is some of that I mean, I look at my old tweets or something or columns that I wrote years ago, and I think it just wasn't, it always seems like no matter what you look at, there's always a little bit more nuance that you're not getting the first time tackling it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So do you do a lot of I mean, not now, but do you do a lot of live events? Have you done conferences? I know you did.
I'm sorry, you cut out.
Oh, sorry, live events.
Yeah, I have. I really don't like speaking. So I do it sometimes, but usually only when people ask me, and usually only when they ask me really aggressively. I have to be persistent to get me to come speak live. So,
and the questions you get.
I just don't enjoy it.
Yeah. Have you gotten better at it? Have you gotten more comfortable with it? I mean,
I have. Teaching kind of helped. I was one thing I thought when I started teaching as a professor that might help me be a better public speaker. And it kind of did, but it kind of didn't. And since I stopped teaching, I feel like it kind of wore off. And now I get really nervous again, where I was sort of more used to it back then. Yeah,
well,
I don't know.
you don't need to be nervous now. Of course, you're among friends, and nothing
Well,
to be
yeah,
nervous
and you know
about.
what? I recognize that it's really stupid too. And like my husband
Yeah.
is afraid of needles. He will almost pass out when they have to take his blood or something.
Oh,
And in both, we understand each other because he said, I know this is ridiculous and my body just won't react normally. And I feel the same way about public speaking. I know it's ridiculous
oh,
to be nervous that my body just like goes crazy. I get all nervous and no matter what
oh,
I
wow.
do. So.
Oh, well, that's interesting. So it's not just a mild dislike. It's sort of it's a reaction kind of a thing.
Yeah.
You saw, I don't know if you're there for the show with Grant Barrett and Martha Barnett. Martha talked about she had a total fear of public speaking, and then she went on and did this radio, applied for a job on a radio show, and sort of got thrown into it, and then did improv to sort of help her get comfortable with it.
I've thought
So,
about trying that multiple times actually. I think that
oh,
would
really?
probably help a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think you're doing fine right now, from where I sit or stand. So we have if anybody has questions for Mignon, you can ask them in the chat window, and we're not looking at it, but Heather signals the secret with the secret code whenever there is a question. So if there are any questions, just put them in there, and Heather will make sure that it comes to my attention, and we'll ask Mignon. So we were talking about the card game before we started the show, and I can't believe it. It always sits on my shelf back here, and I have no idea what happened to it. All I've got, it's like it's a mystery. All I've got is the instructions, Peeve Wars, and then the little chip. I don't know. Did this come with all of them, or was this like the preview?
No, that came with all of
Yeah.
them.
Okay. Yeah.
It doesn't now. When you buy it now, you're told to use pennies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I think Erin Brenner found her copy of the game, so she can.
I did.
Yeah, there it is.
My,
That's mine. That's mine.
My game
No,
master found it. It's a little beat up because he loves it so much.
Yeah, mine's not so beat up, so I know that's not mine.
Yeah, making that was one of the more fun things that I think I've been able to do over the years. So I always, when people say pet peeves, I always imagined that they were little monsters. And then I was in Target one day and I saw these stuffed toys, and I looked at them and I thought, that is a peeve. That is a pet peeve. And they're round, they're just really round. And so that was sort of the kernel of an idea. And I love, my husband and I both love board games and card games. And I really wanted to make a card game that we played with the pet peeves. And it didn't really come together until crowdfunding became a thing that was possible. And I met Joe Kisenweather, who's a friend in Reno, who is actually a game designer. He works at a slot machine, video poker kind of company. He's a mathematician, but on the side he designs board games, and so he knows all about game theory and how to make it fun and everything. Yeah. And then Len Peralta is an artist who does a lot of work with podcasters, and so I brought together Joe and Len. So it was like my idea for the game, but then Joe and Len really made it like real, Joe designed all the gameplay and Len drew all the characters, and I did the crowdfunding project so we could make it happen. And it's just a super fun card game. We all love playing it.
It was a blast. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've done a terrible job marketing it. I have to say, most people don't even know it exists, and I hardly ever talk about it. But it's available on a print-on-demand game site called The Game Crafter, and they kind of just shut down for the pandemic. So when everyone was playing games, you couldn't really order it. So they've opened up again, and they're making games again. But I think they have kind of a backlog. But you can definitely get it now. So if you search Peeve Wars and end up at the Game Crafter. You can order it. I mean,
And
every year I mean to, you know, get it printed in China and get it listed up on Amazon and all that, but then I just never get to it in time, and then Christmas comes and I'm like, oh, it's too late this year, I'll do it next year, and then like I never do.
Well, it was, I mean, it's got the strategy underneath it is very clever and fun, and you know, different cards have different powers and abilities, but they're peeves, and like couldn't care less, could care less, I assume is one. I don't remember, it's been a while.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it
yeah,
is, and very
yeah,
unique.
yeah,
This one, and I seen
yeah.
double negative has two little characters on the card. No, they're so cute and fun, and so and actually Joe really wanted me to put no educational value on the cover. I don't think we did,
Yeah.
but it's
No,
just,
there is, as I said, there is educational value, because I mean, it makes us aware of that peeves, and um, maybe, you know, if we embrace our peeves, we can sort of maybe do away with our peeves a little bit. But
right. They'll make you love the peeves.
yes, or tolerate the peeve maybe. But so our this is our little story, our Las Vegas story. You and I played Peeve Wars until like 2 a.m. Like upstairs of a casino. Everyone else is at the casino, and we found this quiet area. We almost got thrown out, but you said, "Oh, you know, you're very persuasive to say, oh, can we just finish our game?" And you remember who won the game?
I don't remember. I have not stayed up that late since. It was so late.
I know, it was incredible. I don't know something about Las Vegas. Of course, it's like you go to bed and there's lights flashing through the windows. So it's like there's no
Did you
sense
win?
of time. Yes, I did win. Yes, and it was great because it was like back and forth, and it was like a last minute, you know, thing that I did something clever. But it was, you know, it was the object is to be more annoying by playing these different peeves, and so I felt thrilled that I was more annoying in the end there. So we do have questions from the group in here, and so Heather, what do we have on tap?
We have a question about an event a little bit ago. We have a question about video, and then we have one about the rules of grammar, which I think we could have RJ unmute and ask. I'm sorry, RL. RL, could you unmute and ask your question?
Okay, sorry. My question is, how do you balance the idea of rules or right and wrong regarding grammar with the idea of non-standard English or Englishes?
Yeah, that is such a great question. And I think it's something that I've evolved over the years. You know, when I started, I was just an editor, and I cared about the rules. And as I read more and became acquainted with more linguists, and, you know, read about the history of a lot of the rules and how they aren't really all that steeped in anything kind of real, that they're more just you know, they're like social constructs, I guess you could say. I try to avoid using words like right and wrong and correct. You know, I focus very much on, this is the style of, you know, this is AP style. This is Chicago style. If you write for an organization that uses this style guide, do it this way. And actually it just really gets under my skin when people will say that one style is the only right way, something like that. It just really rubs me the wrong way, because I feel like it does such harm in the world. It's not right or wrong, it's just a style, and there are different ways of doing it. And I feel really strongly about that. So, and I try very hard to avoid those kind of value judgments in my own work. I don't know if I always succeed, but it's on my mind and I try.
Yeah. Great question, RL. Mignon, do you say you have evolved in that? Was it when you started out? Were you more just sort of quoting the rules? Did you use incorrect and correct starting out?
I probably did. I don't actually remember, but it's funny when I go back and read some of my earlier stuff. In a lot of ways, I think I was more funny because I was less concerned with being so balanced and accurate. So it was easier for me to be really flippant and say things that might have been more amusing, but also were more strident or, you know, I don't know. I feel like it was easier when I wasn't trying so hard to be all encompassing and balanced. But, you know, because now I'm like, well, maybe you could do it this way or you could do it that way. And this is the origin. And if you look at the Edom online, it says this. And, you know, before I might have like made a joke and said, do it this way. And here's a joke, haha, you know. So, but that was probably only the first year or two. And then I really got more into, you know, being more accurate and balanced, I think.
Right. And that's something, and I've always recommended people go to your site and pay attention, because that's always been your approach, has been, you always seem to care about the person you're giving the advice to.
Yeah. And actually that, I'll say, even from the beginning, my approach was always like not to try to, I felt like a lot of work that existed at the time was people trying to show how superior and how smart they were. And I really just wanted to help people who wanted to write better. And I think that if you're making people feel bad about making mistakes, then you're not able to help them, because that's just not how people learn. So, I mean, my goal was always to be really open and helpful and non-judgmental.
Right. Do you remember how we met on Twitter?
No, I just feel like I've known you forever, Mark.
Oh yeah, pretty much. Yeah, the past 10 years anyway. I had, and I felt like I felt bad that I did this, because I was, you know, the same way. I mean, I don't want to tell people they're wrong, but you had tweeted something about uppercase, Twitter is uppercase and tweet is uppercase, you know, according to the AP style book. And then I tweeted, oh no, AP style said that, but then they changed it. And it was like, normally I would like I'll spend forever searching for somebody so I can privately message them or send them an email that says, you know, that's inaccurate. But it wasn't like a gotcha. It was more just you know, updating you with information. You were very kind in your response, and thanked me, and that was the beginning of a beautiful friendship. So that was
well, I know I make mistakes. I mean, my in the early days of the podcast, I had like a tagline that said, "I don't claim to be perfect. I'm just here to help," or something like that. And you know, I still don't. I mean, I still make mistakes. Someone pointed out diphthong was spelled wrong on my site last week. You know, I appreciate when people tell me. I appreciate it more when they tell me privately. But you know, honestly, at this point, almost every day someone is telling me something I've done is wrong. So sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong, but I'm pretty used to it. Right.
Yeah, you're supposed to get it both ways. Yeah, and you can't produce that much, as much as you do, without having, you know, something somewhere. Everybody needs an editor, and some people need a bunch of editors to clear out every little problem. So I already forgot what Heather said. That we had a couple of other questions, and I don't want to fail to give everybody a chance. So what else?
So we had one about the podcast. Morella, would you like to unmute and ask about the podcast?
Oh, sure. Hi, Mignon. I'm a big fan of the podcast, and I'm always sort of in awe of how you come up with the topics, because it always seems to be something that I might have thought about, but you just bringing it up in your podcast makes it so much more interesting. So what is your source of inspiration, basically?
Oh, thanks. Good question. So, I mean, a lot of the topics come from either the news or listener questions. So, or things people ask on Twitter. So I'm always, you know, after 14 years of doing it, I feel like I've covered almost everything that could be covered. But then So I get really excited when there's a news hook that lets me cover an old topic in a new way. So I'm always on the lookout for that. And then honestly, lately, my guest writers have come up with a lot of great ideas because, you know, I guess I've thought of everything I can think of, and new people have new perspectives. So the guest writers have been helpful in coming up with fresh ideas too. But a lot of it is also driven by listener questions. People email or they tweet at me or post on Facebook. You know, we read all the comments. We don't always answer every single one, but we see them and they give us ideas for shows. I know Samantha Enslin gets some of her ideas from the comments on the Facebook page, because she'll say, oh, I saw, you know, someone asked this and would you be interested in an article about it? So those are the big ways we get ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. What else, Heather?
We have another one about doing video. Melissa T, will you unmute?
I never unmute. Yes, I'm surprised that you are scared of public speaking, and I'm wondering if making these videos for LinkedIn Learning is a different experience for you, if it's much more comfortable for you.
Oh, it's much more comfortable because I know it will be edited. So it's really the live thing that gets me stressed out, because God knows what's going to happen. Anything could happen, right? I could make a fool of myself. Whereas with the podcast or video, I know if I make a mistake, we can fix it. You know, like I said, for the 30-minute video we filmed for 3 days, and we did, you know, probably 10 or 15 takes for every video. So I know we can get it just right. And it's just, I guess it's just the live part that, I guess I'm kind of a control freak. So the fact that something's live and if something goes wrong, I can't fix it, that's kind of a big part of what stresses me out. So yeah, no, doing the LinkedIn Learning didn't help at all, because it's completely controlled and fixable.
All right, and one more, I think.
Yes, we have one from Pam about an event. Pam, go ahead and unmute.
Mignon set this up perfectly. You said that if it's live, you're not sure you can fix it. And I live in Decatur, Georgia. DeKalb County Library, and you came to speak. It was over a decade ago, maybe 12 to 14 years. I'm not really sure when. My husband and I were there. And there was an incident at the back of the room where someone said to you, and I'm going to quote this because I think it will spark your memory. And my question is really, what would you do differently now if this happened? But the person, and I'm quoting, said, I'm a language arts teacher, and myself and the other language arts teachers, and there was this huge gasp.
Yeah.
What would you do about that now? I mean, how would you handle something like that happening if you could do it over again? Because I know you went home and like thought about it.
Oh my gosh, I think about that at least every 2 weeks still to this day. Wow. It's amazing to me that you bring that up, and I remember the exact event, and I remember the exact gasp. And I remember standing in front of that room, which there were about 200 people. It's one of the biggest book events I ever did. And I felt like I handled it so badly. And I felt so sorry for the woman who said the wrong thing. And she was saying, what did I do? And I just froze. And this poor woman was standing there in the audience wondering what had just happened to her. It was awful. And honestly, I still think about that. What would I have done differently? I think I would have just said, so you said me and my colleagues and myself and I, and you know, a lot of people think that is not the right way to say that. They would say you should say, you know, my colleagues and I did this or that. And I would say, but it's a common error. And, you know, I kind of wish, I've always wished that I would have told the woman who made a big deal out of it that she was being rude, because I thought she was just incredibly mean to do that. And I'm not sure if I would have had the nerve to tell her that, even thinking about it ahead of time and planning for it. It was a very awkward moment.
It was, and I've talked about it often since then, and other people have said it was rude for the people who gasped. And
yeah, I think it was rude.
And I almost think, you know, the sort of involuntary gasp I could almost forgive, but just the figuring out what to do at that point seemed really impossible.
I guess, you know, I feel better that you remember it too. I wondered sometimes I wonder if I am overly obsessing about that moment when I think about it so often, but it was so horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's really interesting.
Apologies on behalf of the city of Decatur.
You know, no, other than that, it was an amazing event. Like I was so exciting because they told me it was one of the biggest book events they had. It was full house, you know, it was really exciting, but God, that was awful.
We'll hopefully come back.
Oh, I would come back. Yeah. I guess if any of us ever travel again, I don't know when
exactly.
Happen. Then I'd have to write another book, so maybe it's never going to happen. But I did love that town. Everyone was nice except that one woman. Oh, yeah.
So are you getting out? You're at a vacation place, so you must be somewhere. You're not like in a big city, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, it's, you know, I've been thinking it's been really hard not to be at home, but I've been in places that are much closer to nature. So, you know, Pat and I we go out and walk at least twice a day and often 3 times a day. It's been, a lot of things have been bad, but it's been a much healthier lifestyle than we had before. You know, before we went out to lunch every day, and now we go, you know, walk outside every day. So I feel like I'm in much better shape, which is nice, and I'm much closer to nature. I think I might want to try to keep that up.
Oh yeah, that's good. I mean, city life is great, but you always want, if you live in the city, you always want to get to a lake somewhere or to the woods or something for a change of pace. You're a big skier, right? In the winter?
I love to ski, but I'm really bad at it. So it's this weird thing. Like I do love it. And, but last year I went and I took a really bad fall, and then I was sort of menaced by someone coming up behind me really fast. So I had a couple of really bad experiences last ski season, and I was wondering already if I was going to keep skiing as much going forward. But I think I may, but I want to make sure I go when it's really, really not crowded, because I got really scared when someone almost ran me down, and it was just really scary. So
sure.
So I'll go, you know,
snowshoeing
Tuesday morning. Yeah.
Tuesday. Oh, too, when nobody else is on the slopes, right? I thought you meant this coming Tuesday.
Oh, no. But like, you know, when no one else is on the mountain, because I go pretty slow. So I do love it.
Yeah. What else? What are your other hobbies that we should know about?
Oh, well, I mean, I guess like Grammar Girl wise, I was starting to do YouTube videos. So after I did the LinkedIn Learning course, then I was like, I can do video, you know, now I've seen how it's done. And so I did that probably for a couple of months before I had to leave my office, and I had gotten a good setup and really was having fun with it. So I'm also looking forward to doing that again more. I mean, probably I'll need to get settled in at home again. So it's going to be, you know, at least a month or two before I'm probably able to do it again. But that was sort of you know, I'm always looking for something new to sort of keep myself engaged. I love doing the podcast every week, but I also need some kind of new thing to keep me engaged too. So video had been my new thing before I had to hit the road.
So it feels like it must be, because you have all these things sort of set up and in motion. I mean, the podcast in particular, but just your presence on social media, the Facebook page, you must feel sometimes like you would just like to maybe stop doing that, or is that not a thought?
This morning I told Pat, I said, I feel like doing nothing. I just want to do nothing.
Yeah.
You know, I definitely have my days, but I don't know. Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what else I would do. I certainly could find things to do, but
Yeah.
I really enjoy doing the podcast. You know, I don't think I could keep doing it if I didn't really enjoy it. So, you know, I think, and yeah, I mean, I could even imagine going back to doing it twice a week. I liked doing it twice a week. It just kind of wasn't working from a business perspective last year, but you know, if it could work again, I think that could be fun to do twice a week. Because you know, when I went back to once a week, I was like, there were all these things I wanted to talk about and people I wanted to interview, and then I didn't have as many opportunities to do it. I felt like I wanted more time, but it had been good. So, you know, just being able to maybe get a little more help with it or something would be good. But so that's a possibility in the future that I might do that.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, we certainly want more. So nobody's going to argue with that. And I love the interviews. I love when you do an interview show. I listened to the Roy Peter Clark thing, I think just yesterday.
Oh, you know what? I'd be super interested to hear, because I never really knew how people felt about the interviews. So if you're in, if this is okay, if you listen to the podcast, if you could just leave a comment, like interviews yes, interviews no, like were they, because they're so different from the rest of the podcast, and I don't know if people thought like, oh, you're getting too far away from what the promise is of the podcast, you know, quick and dirty tips. An interview is not quick or a tip. So I always wondered if that was bad, but then people seemed, I mean, traffic didn't go down. As many people listened to the interviews as listened to the rest of the show. So I'm just curious if people like love them or were kind of glad when I stopped doing them, or I'm curious if we can get a quick poll. I'm going to overwhelm your chat.
You can do polling on it, but I don't know how to set it up. I mean, it's not, I think you set it up in advance and then you put it up. So if we should have done that. Come back next week. We'll do it again. We'll do the question. We'll do the poll and ask everybody in the room.
I just thought of it. Sorry.
Yeah, we all go in gallery view, and we could do. How about this? Everyone in gallery view, give us a thumbs up or thumbs down if you like the interview podcast along with the others. All right, it looks universal. Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to remember you have to go to like multiple screens. And I never do this. I never know who's in the show because I never actually go like look at the multiple screens. So nice to see some familiar faces.
Well, that's good because I like doing them. So that's good to know. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Back to speaker view now. So you did a political campaign as part of your. Were you play a big role in marketing the thing? And
so for people who don't know, my husband decided to run for the U.S. House of Representatives in 2018. Yeah, in the 2018 election, he ran in the primary, and boy, I didn't want him to. But, that was really scary. So, but when he said he was going to anyway, then I just 100% got on board and I did all his marketing. It was just the two of us. You know, we didn't have anyone else helping, and I did all of his marketing. So he went out and talked to people, and he went to events, and I made his campaign videos. I did his social media. I don't think he posted a thing without me editing it. He better not have. Yeah, and actually the most interesting thing was we bought Facebook ads. So I have never really bought ads for Grammar Girl or anything. And I taught social media at the university, but I had never done a paid campaign. And we ran nonstop paid campaigns for probably 2 months. And so I learned a lot about Facebook advertising. And I'll tell you, it's really scary how targeted you can make your ads. So, you know, I just was astonished at how much I could target those ads to people based on, you know, maybe what magazine they subscribed to or what group they belonged to. I could really narrowly target people with messages, and it made me even more before I had been pretty uneasy about Facebook and privacy and the ability for misinformation and manipulation. And after, you know, running campaigns myself, I became even more wary and concerned about what's possible with Facebook.
Yeah.
It was interesting because it seemed to me like most people involved in politics, at least at the level that we were, didn't really understand social media or weren't really using it in the same way that we were. And so, so he ended up coming, he didn't file to run until the last day before the deadline. And so when he did that, he only had about 2 months to campaign. Oh. And neither of us had ever been involved in politics in any way before. We didn't really know anyone in that world in our state. And, you know, we didn't know what we were doing. And he's not a very social guy, so he didn't know a lot of people in town. And with those 2 months of Facebook ads and him out, he came in second. He lost by only 2% in the final race, and that was after being left out of the voter guide in the local paper. Oh, so really? I think he would have won if he didn't get left out of the voter guide. So
well, I know he
I really think it really showed the.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I remember that I remember reading the media, the local Reno press, and he did better than expected. And, you know, he was sort of this nobody who, you know, ran a great campaign. And of course he had, you know, he was, I think he was really good on the issues, and he did a great job. And you did a great job.
No, he did such a good job. Yeah, and but I think it also just really speaks to the power of social media, and I think people should use it more because it worked really well for us, and it seemed like a lot of people don't use it very much, especially at the local level.
Right.
You know, you can target like people in a specific zip code. You know, like it's really cost efficient.
Right. And so, have you gotten the politics bug from that, where you're thinking, "Oh, I could do this again"?
Oh God, no. No.
Yeah, and it's past,
he wanted me to run. He actually wanted me to run, and it's just, you know, I mean, like I said, I don't like public speaking. I don't like being recognized. I mean, it's just 100% not something I would ever do. And so then he decided to run, and I was much more comfortable behind the scenes. But I don't think we'll do it. I know we won't do it again.
Yeah. But it's been wonderful to talk to you. And always is. And thank you for coming on the show, and good luck there in Oregon, and good luck back when you're back in Reno with the elevator situation.
Thank you. It's so great to see everyone's faces. Thanks a bunch for being here.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here, and we'll see you next week.